Hello and welcome to another episode of the Entertainment Offsite. Today we're going to be talking about Scale Agile Framework, or SAFe, as you might know it. And in order to do so, we have here with us two pros from 3SS, Nicoleta Moral, one of our project managers, and Sasha Casper, our CHRO. Welcome and thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure is all ours, I'm sure.
So let's not assume that everyone knows what SAFe is. I only discovered because I had to do a training, which was really interesting. But how would you describe in a nutshell to the audience what is SAFe and what is like the purpose of using SAFe?
Well, in essence, SAFe is a toolbox, if you like. It contains a whole bunch of methods, ideas, and approaches, all of which are based on good practices of the past, 2 decades. Yes, SAFe itself has only been around since 2011, but a lot of the influences and basic ideas are coming from agile software development. And the Agile Manifesto as such has been around for much longer, since 2001. So it's really a lot of experience, a lot of history there. SAFe is getting continuously improved and adapted to the changing needs and environments. Most recently, we had a pandemic, as you know, and this had a huge impact there. The important thing to remember is that, with all the toolboxes, even with the real physical ones you have at home, not every tool in there is suitable or needed every single time. But it's good to have and to know them for when you actually need them. So I have tools in my garage which I use maybe 3 times a year, but when I do need them, it's really a great idea to have them.
That was a really great answer. Nicoleta, do you have something to add?
To that, I think for me, mostly when I joined to 3SS and I had to deal with this, even from the day one, I mostly come from a waterfall world. And when I join and I've learned about SAFe, about Agile, it definitely make my life a bit easier. It was hard at the beginning to map to those values and this mindset, but once I succeeded and we put it in practice every day, at least in my project, it totally makes sense, and it's much more easier than it used to be before. And comparing with waterfall, then it's definitely a way to go.
Perfect. So let's dig a bit more into the topic. 3SS has been working with SAFe for a long time now. So what are the visible or the specific benefits of using SAFe in the projects?
I will name just 4, and Sasha can continue, add even more, or complete my statement if he likes. So to me, the first benefit of it is a better employee engagement here. It's much well structured. We know what to do, when to do. We have team commitments here, plan they made. We support autonomy. We keep the motivation up, and the resources are motivating themselves using this. Then next to this, if you have motivated people, well structured, and they know what to do, of course, they increase the productivity here. So we can eliminate unnecessary work, to identify and remove the delays if they are in time, so we can act right away, to continue improving what we do, right, to keep our communication still active and making sure that we are building the right things at that moment. Then, of course, happy workers, increasing productivity, we have a faster time to market, right? So that helps the team to make a quick decision, The fact that they communicate more effectively goes to staying in focus with the client all the time, to have streamlined operation, and then to release much faster. And last but not least, of course, is the quality, right? So we highlighting the importance of integrating quality into every step of the development cycle. This means enforce an application which is better tested in small batches all the time. And of course, if we have quality and fast time on the market, that's what the client wants, in essence.
That sounds like a lot of benefits, but Sas, I think there's a few more, or not.
Well, I fully agree with everything Nicoletta just said, and this is something that is not just from books or case studies, it's something we really experience ourselves in the company. Does it always work out like this in 100% of the cases? Is it always perfect? No, of course not. But nothing is. Nothing is. The thing is, with SAFe, you just increase your chances to get it right most of the time significantly. And yes, we have all these things. We have faster time to market, which is, of course, important for our customers. We have quality as an improvement, but one thing I would like to add to the quality idea is that using SAFe and using the idea of having quality as a shared responsibility made a huge difference in the team dynamics. You know, traditionally it used to be somebody thinks of a feature to do, somebody did it, and then somebody tested it. And the poor guy at the end who tested it and found bugs, if the end product didn't work as it should, got the blame, right? Because you are QA after all, you're supposed to make sure it works. But with SAFe, it's very different. With SAFe, it starts with the guy in front who has an idea of something. Already at this stage, even when it's a very high level idea, there needs to be a very specific description of what we expect out of this idea in terms of how it should work, even if it's very high level. And then it simply runs through the whole team, and all the time, quality is a shared responsibility. So that's a great benefit in my opinion. And the last thing I would like to add to the already existing list is, again, from the client point of view, predictability. So since we started working with SAFe, which was in, I think, 2016, if I'm not mistaken, we can see that our predictability and reliability in terms of commitments for delivering certain features, delivering certain solutions, rolling them out, maintaining them at a specific quality has increased by an enormous factor. We can see that, and this is, again, something that our customers also see and appreciate, obviously. I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah, you're completely right. Let's go a bit more in the different roles in SAFe. And since we have here one of the key roles, Nicoletta, what is exactly the role of the PM or the project manager in all of these processes?
Well, I'm not saying that I'm doing totally right, but I'm trying as much as I can to be a servant leader for the team. Comparing with Waterfall, I think on Agile, this is where the PM role mostly falls into. And what I definitely want to have in mind and do it is first to be, let's say, as I say, a servant leader, which to encourage them to promote this framework to the team, to the client, to apply the principle of this in day by day activity, to maybe explain or re-explain if it's needed, in case we fall apart in some of the events or the structure or the way we are managing the project, to encourage the autonomy of the team. So I should not do micromanaging for them. I should encourage them to be self-autonomous, to have a self-autonomy, to work by themselves, to work in the group all together much better. Obviously, to embrace with them continuous improvements. We probably didn't work out very well for the first time, but we sit down, we reanalyze, we make retrospective what we can do better and what we can continue improving on the process to make in the end our life much easier. Of course, we want, and I want to eliminate the delay and wasted time for them. So I go a bit ahead by identifying those stuff, by mitigating some steps, which for them will be easier to be picked up at a later stage. To balance the flow, the work in progress flow, we can't keep people working at 10 things on the same time. We need to balance them and to limit that, to secure smooth flow from the open state up to the result, so that at certain point in the flow not to block themselves. Of course, we stay in touch with the client demands, with his feedback, with the need for flexibility and how we can do that on the project. And of course, we try to stay on the train with the team, to focus on our commitments and objectives during product increment and even farther. And that goes by keeping a certain cadence of work and the events that we do in project.
Great. It does sound really important to be a PM. Another topic from SAFE, it's how self-organized teams are kind of the core part of SAFE. So how did 3SS manage to establish those? Does it always work, Sasa?
I will take the second question first. So the short answer is yes, it always works. Sounds unbelievable, but it's actually true. However, there's a caveat. So it would be a mistake to interpret the term self-organized as unguided or unsupported. And this is where it's crucial to understand the difference and to see why it always works. For us, and this comes back to your first question, how did we implement the idea of self-organized teams? Well, we actually had self-organized teams already before we started working with SAFE. So it was something that was inherent in the way we understood ourselves, or have been understanding ourselves since the company was founded, and we have been working together. What was new with SAFE is the fact that we started using cross-functional teams. And honestly, in terms of project teams, I think you can only get a self-organized team if it is actually also cross-functional, and if you create the environment for these teams to actually flourish. Nicoletta just described it very nicely in her statement about the project manager role. Exactly what she said, to be an enabler, to make sure they have what they need, remove impediments, to help them develop this attitude, because that's what it is in the end. Being self-organized is not a skill, basically. Yes, part of being self-organized is making tasks and timelines and scheduling your day and everything. That's all fine. But self-organization itself is not a skill, in my opinion. It's more like an attitude. And this attitude needs to be fostered. It needs also to be demonstrated. It's not enough to tell people, okay, now go and be self-organized. You also should help them a bit and demonstrate how you do it, how you live it yourselves. And then it needs to be enabled. And like I said, this is something we have been doing since forever at 3SS. And therefore, the migration of this shift was not so difficult for us. And if you do it like this, in our experience at least, yes, it always works.
Nice. That's something we like. Nicoletta, has 3SS managed to move from selling person days to selling value?
I will say definitely yes. We continue to work and improve on that, of course, and to get better and better. But for sure, looking back from where when I started with 3SS up to what is today, so 4 years ago, that this is visible, not only for me, but for all my colleagues, which we are handling project here. It depends very much as well on the clients. of course. But I'm still convinced that this value is added with our know-how, with everything that we put on this project from the day one up to the end, and then continuing with the maintenance even. And the fact that we started to see some results on the store, people downloading our application, using that, and number of incidents being very less or very easy to handle, that's definitely more than a selling value that we have offered. Coming back to Safe, this is also another value that we have put on it, because we've discovered that a lot of our clients did not use this framework at all. And given so, we put our expertise on it. We show them how to work and how to use it properly. And they even went on the direction on promoting it inside their company at either departments, given on what we are working. So, in short, I will say we're not a person per day. We are a value that we are putting on everything we do.
Nice. Talking about clients, as you mentioned right now, it would be maybe good to know or that you explain shortly what a PI planning is. But coming to the real question is, the PI planning is the main event for keeping an agile, really strong, going fast and in the right direction. But it is an in-person event. And we come from 2 years of a pandemic where we are just going out of that. How did 3SS manage to do the PI planning, during the pandemic when physical get-togethers were impossible? Sasha?
Yeah, maybe I'll take the theoretical part of this question, and then Nicoletta can describe how it went in real life. So the nice thing about Scaled Agile Framework, as I said before, is that it keeps being updated and adapted. And Scaled Agile Framework organization, so the people behind the tools and the method, they were very fast. So when COVID-19 hit and it became obvious that we could not get together face-to-face anymore for who knows how long, they very quickly adapted their tools, their methods, their material to provide the possibility to also use online tools. I suppose everybody who had to do the switch then went for the tool of their choice. Again, there is no fixed role what to take. I think in our case, we went with Miro, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, with Teams for all the calls and everything. But the important thing for me from the theoretical part again is that Scaled Agile Framework reacted very quickly and provided all the help that the people in the field, whether they are trainers like myself, because it also affected me, obviously. It's nice to train people that you should meet face to face and then tell you, I cannot, so what can I do? Or whether it is the professionals who actually work with it on a daily basis, like Nicoletta out there.
Thank you. Now, Nicoletta.
Well, I'm laughing. Remind me how I used to be 2 years ago when everyone moved at home office and we started to have PI planning and kids around. And everyone was, the client and also ourselves was trying to figure it out how to make the situation more stable. But leaving that behind, because we've all been through that. Save also provided a way of adapting it in online, and it come up with a full list or a checklist or what you can do. And we've used that as a guidance, but as such I say, we've adapted a lot. Indeed, we are moved to online tools quite quickly, which to help us visualize the board, right? What we are planning, what are dependencies between the teams, to actually see what are the outcomes of the planning into a more visual state. We've moved on the Teams as communication, but we also realize after the first PI that maybe staying in the calls for 2 days it's too much and people get tired. And even if we are with the camera, the people are losing, it's not the interest, but definitely the patience. So with every PI, we did a retrospective and say, okay, let's understand what didn't work too well so you can adapt. We put more focus on advance for the preparation meeting, for the pre-planning meeting, so that to reduce a bit the time from the PI planning, or we increase the period of the PI planning in short afternoon or mornings time, but in 2 or 3 days until we actually get to be completed. So more or less, the word will be, we have adapted very much, retrospect, and then again start all over with the next, with better preparation and considering the feedback from the first, which wasn't a bad idea. And I think it worked very well, especially because we have this Miro board in front of us and was able to, we've been able to see what we are doing, all of us, in real time. The disadvantage, of course, was as much as we will not like to accept, having a face-to-face meeting create a different dynamic. And I would say a different connection and then a different way of perceiving the PI planning. That was missing, right? But we've tried in small breaks, maybe to take 10 minutes to just chat, or someone to tell a joke, or just to get to the personal level again that we used to have on the face-to-face meetings. So that's pretty much what we try to do.
Yeah, well, luckily, little by little, I think we're going back to normal, hopefully. So they will come again. So DevOps is a much discussed topic. One that I don't really know so much of, so I'm really looking forward to this your answer. So, but is it just a hype, or like, because 3SS set up a dedicated DevOps team, and what was the value that this brought? Take the question, whoever you like.
I can give it a try. So DevOps is obviously a combination of two different words. It's development and operations. Right? Quick introduction for those who are not familiar with it. And developers and operations people, so those who build new things and those who want to keep the existing things running, often have conflicting interests, right? So developers want to get the new stuff out there because it's exciting and fresh, and clients ask for it. And operations people, they would say, come on, it's working right now. Let's not do anything. As long as it's good, it's good. So this is where DevOps then comes into the picture, trying to bridge this gap between the two different interest groups with a whole bunch of methods and ideas and tools once again. The DevOps part in SAFe goes through the whole development chain, I would say. It's a core concept in there. It helps with pretty much everything that is about measuring what we do and how we do it, finding out how we can improve in terms of speed as well as quality, trying to automate as many things as possible, and simply helping with this core idea of relentlessly improving every aspect of our work, in either on a train or in a project or even in an organization. Why we set it up as 3SS as a separate DevOps team and not just as part of a normal project team is because we learned in a very significant way what DevOps can actually do. So we had a real life project where it used to be the case that when a bug was reported from a version that had been released already to public, then being processed, a fix done, a fix tested, and released again would have taken anything between 4, 5, 7 business days. And this was clearly too long. So what we did is we looked at DevOps and what we can do there. We did value stream mapping and all the necessary steps. And in the end, we reached a state where the bugs were reported, fixed, tested, and released within a single day. And this is what DevOps can do for you. Is it always going to be such a huge increase? Probably not. But even if we had cut the time only, in quotes only, in half, this would have been a huge improvement already. And this is why we believe in DevOps. And this is why I think it's not just a hype. It's indeed something that can bring a lot of value and which justifies setting it up as a dedicated team in an organization. Does it need to be a huge team? Well, depends on the organization, I suppose. In our case, it's not huge. It's a handful of people who are very dedicated, very knowledgeable. So with the right people, the right experts, I think you can have a huge impact, even if the team itself is not that big.
Okay, so not a hype, that's for sure. But is like we've been talking about a lot of steps and a lot of different teams. So is SAFe then like over-engineer? Are all of those steps needed? We call it down?
I think that's the beauty of it. SAFe doesn't tell us, well, it gives them some advices and some techniques and some checklists what to do, but it's not imposing you anything in the sense that you have to do it from A to Z, everything. You just need to pick up whatever it suits you on that moment with that client, with that project. So it's not, you don't need to go, at least in my opinion, by the book to achieve the same results. You just need to get the sense or the common sense of what it's applying at that moment for that particular project, which helps you to move it farther into the direction of delivery. In the end, that's the end goal, to deliver on what we have committed to the client to happen in time, and of course with the budget that we have started. Mm-hmm. Then, apart from this, it's up to you, to you or to the team to manage themselves what to pick up to suit them the best.
I like that you said that you're not doing it by the book, right? And honestly, I don't think there's a single organization out there doing it by the book. Because I also mentioned in the beginning, SAFe is a collection of ideas and methods based on good practice. They don't go there and say, this is best practice. And this is a maybe semantic, might be semantics, but it's a subtle but relevant difference. They don't claim that everything in there is the best answer to each and every question you might ever be facing. They're just giving you good answers to most situations and most questions. So is SAFe over-engineered? I think it can feel over-engineered. So if you don't know anything about SAFe and you just look at the summary picture, it's a lot to take in, right? It's a lot of information. Then if you start to try to self-educate and read into the topic, there's simply a lot of stuff to process. I mean, they have been working on this for 11 years now. There has to be a lot, right? But again, the important thing to note is that in this summary picture, what you can see there is like the full configuration of SAFe. And this is the one that can really be scary with strategic themes and lean budgets and lean portfolio management and lean here and agile there and scary, can be scary. However, I think the important thing is that by far the most companies and organizations don't need the full configuration of SAFe. Companies like NASA need full SAFe, right? Or similarly complex solution providers. For the most companies, what we call the essential SAFe configuration would be enough, at the very least to start with. And as the name implies, essential SAFe really starts with the relatively few things that you need, with the core ideas, the core principles. And even those, as Nicoletta just said, you still adapt, right? There are very few things that you really need to do. I mean, PI planning, you cannot skip. If you don't do PI planning, you don't do SAFe, right? But there's a lot of other rituals and artifacts where you simply have to apply common sense given the current, given each situation, and decide, is this something that brings value for me or not? Because in the end, SAFe doesn't tell you to use certain things just to use them, but the end goal is always to keep creating value in a sustainable way. And therefore, I don't think it's over-engineered. It just needs to be looked at critically and applied with common sense.
Perfect. Thank you. Again, for you, Sasa, now, you're going to talk a lot.
I will try to be short.
How steep is the learning curve in SAFe?
Oh, okay. Well, that's simple. You should know. You did a SAFe training. You also said in the introduction, right? You didn't know anything about SAFe. Then you joined us and you had to do a SAFe training, which is true. Everybody does. How bad was it?
I have to say, it's different for me as a marketing person, that it was for the developers. I felt like I was like the worst in my team, but it was really interesting. And I think now you caught me by surprise because I did this 1 year ago, but I think I learned a lot, and the fact that the training is so interactional, the interactive, not interactional, that doesn't exist. It was good, and to see how the teams work, and it made me understand really what 3SS does and how it does it. But I cannot say anything more because I don't remember.
But no, I think that's perfectly good because, of course, the key audience in our case are people working on the projects, right? Building the solutions. The nice thing about SAFe, also in your case, as a marketing person, there are things in there that can still be used in your daily work. If it's about problem solving or prioritizing, simple principles and ideas that apply across the board. So is it a steep learning curve? If you just want to understand SAFe in order to work on teams, on projects and deliver value, I do not think so. There are a few ideas and concepts in there which are quite alien to people who have never heard about it, like weighted shortest job first and thinking in story points. This is something where most people stumble initially, right? So this can be challenging, but overall, I don't think it's all that steep. However, if you want to specialize later on and you move on in the direction of, I don't know, solution architect or product owner, product manager, then yes, obviously it gets a bit more complex.
Yeah, completely. To finalize, well, actually, I got up with a new question that both of you are not aware of, but I think it's an easy one to reply. Do you think SAFe is necessary in every project?
Well, as I say, with no PI planning, there is no SAFe. But no, obviously no. It's a matter of, again, a choice between you and the client. You came to discuss what everyone wants from
I think so.
Right? We came to suggest how...
But for what it's worth, I agree with her. So you don't need it for every project. If you have simple things, I don't know. A project by definition is a series of tasks with a defined end result within a certain time frame, right? This is something I could do alone. It's something I could do with a second person. If I have 2 people, 3 people, do I need to do SAFe? Nah, I don't. But what I would do is to pick out some of the ideas and tools from there and use them to make my project a bit easier and faster, probably. So it depends on the complexity of the setup. How many people do you have in there? Where SAFe really shines, as the name would imply, is when it's about scaling, right? So when you get into more complex projects, into bigger solutions, then SAFe makes more and more sense.
I think Nicoleta will join us shortly. But anyway, we're coming to the end of the podcast, and we have a last question that I'm going to ask to you first, Sasa.
Since I'm the only one here.
Yeah. How is because we talk about clients, but we didn't really focus the topic, but how is the reaction of these clients that never use or work with SAFe when introduce it to them? Are they like satisfied? Do they react in a special way?
So as I see it, they typically go through 3 phases or 3 stages. First stage is they don't care. So they want us to build something. It shall be fast. It shall be good. It shall be affordable. They don't care if we use SAFe or waterfall or whatever else. Then once they see us working in the SAFe mode, they get curious and say, what are you doing there? What's with PI planning? And why are you talking about story points? And what is all this stuff? These strange terms that I've never heard. And then at the very least, they see the benefits after the first program increment, so within the first 3 months, I would think. And then we have quite a few occasions where customers actually said, that's a very nice way of working. We want to do the same. Can you help us? And in these cases, we simply help them by integrating them even closer into our own processes, letting them participate behind the scenes, so to speak, with activities and rituals where clients normally would not be involved. And we help them with our experience in consulting. What we don't do is we don't go there and say, we can teach you SAFe, right? This is not our core business. But this is what usually happens. First, they don't care, then they are surprised, and then they are thoroughly impressed.
Nice.
Oh, it depends, right? As every change, personal or professional, at first there is a resistance, but not necessarily, complaining about the framework, or it's the fact that it's new. And what is new, at first it comes up with all kind of questions and doubts, and how they don't see from the first the benefit, unless of course you're open and you want to embrace this from the first. Now, once we started to work, to explain, to have maybe some trainings, to show them how it works on another project, to start applying on the project itself. We break the ice with the first pre-planning, of course, and after that, we start with the deliveries and, with the events and so on and so forth. It started to make sense. It started to make a connection of the puzzles that, he made on his mind. And in the end, after a couple of, PI plannings, it definitely is, it's much more easier. We simply like to work like this. As I say, they start to promote this or try to promote this inside of different departments than the one that we are working. And they are definitely satisfied. What I think it gives them, let's say the final vote for this is the fact that they actually see tangible results in a quick time. And it gives them the confidence and the power that whatever we have committed to that product increment, it's going to be delivered. And it sees that twice, or it sees that in every sprint. He sees that how we are moving. He sees the task being closed and resolved. And that makes and gives him the sense that we are actually moving and delivering. And that's what I would like to see. And obviously by working this way, I have this visibility.
Great. So, we came to the end of the podcast. Thank you both. It was really interesting. And I think, for both the people that didn't know about SAFe and for people that know a bit less, like myself. So it was really a pleasure having you here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was good fun for me too. Thank you.
Indeed.
Bye-bye.
Bye.